Hello everyone, and welcome to yet another exciting and late episode of Let's Analyze! Today we're going to analyze the new Ylissean Travelers Banner and share a little bit of my thoughts on the disappointing Feh Channel. I guess the better word would be underwhelming, since the banner itself is pretty much the meat of the Feh Channel. Though the Escara Trio refineries are pretty cool too, for Alphonse. Still, aside from those, we get some quibs about a new mode to unlock support conversations, a pointless Grand Conquest ranking system, and the absolutely horrible 3 points per focused unit kill system in the arena. I'll go over those in a bit. First, let's talk about the units. Now, I know most of you are eager about my opinion of Maribel, so I'll just cut straight to her first. So, by using her own DNA and mixing with the likes of Jenny DNA and Maria DNA, the Dark Overlord Elise produced a horrifying child, equipped with deadly drills that can pierce the heavens. Drill Path! If Dr. Sakura has Elise, then clearly Derpy Lissa has Drill Maribel. Now first, let's go over the stats. So my initial guess of her stats before the data mine was that she's going to have 35 attack or something with 30 speed. Since the previous Nana had 34 speed but lowered attacks, it only made sense for it to be that way, except, well, it wasn't. Instead, Elise's horrifying DNA caused her to have 33 speed as well. Now, she's even stronger offensively than her master. However, one thing that she, along with Nana, can no longer do is use ploys, because all their res have just been stripped away. They can't boost their powers further by themselves using these ploys, nor provide long-range support, as well as the other healers. Of course, not that it really matters if you equip double Savage Blow, but a healer should also think about supporting when times of actually being deployed. It's not all about doing damage, even though I make it look like it, but healer supporting and doing damage is the most ideal. Still, because of this, as a result of stretching her 145 BST so thin, she's extremely vulnerable to getting one shot. Yeah, you have a lot of good offensive capability, but you getting one shotted is also very dangerous. So, never mind getting doubled, because both of her defensive stats are super banes. So I guess you could take off HP, but it's still a pretty scary endeavor because she's pretty low on that as well. That said, because she only has a magic bulk of 69, giggity, at plus 10 by default, she's one of these healers that can actually get one-shotted by Lina at any level. So be careful of her and any other magic buff users. So that being said, I can't help but feel that Maribel might have overdid it a bit much with the offensive stats, especially if she gets cavalry buffs. I feel that she kind of overkills too much. But thankfully this isn't so bad with Razzle Dazzle, so you don't have to worry about her defenses so much. You just gotta focus on keeping her out of harm's way. Now, in terms of IV, I think that plus speed is probably better to suit her high attack. Unlike Jenny, who, well, doesn't have any speed whatsoever, having this speed is a luxury. It allows her to double. And you know what? If somebody not named Lilina hits her, she might be able to survive. But if she gets doubled, well, that 69 plus 10 magic bulk is not gonna save her. It's not. It's pretty low for a healer. Anyway, so as for her skills, I think that the Trilemma is actually a rather weapon. First, it has no use to herself whatsoever, so she needs to be in a team to deploy this. Second, when she does use it to support her teammates with colors, it has the ability to either decrease or, when it backfires, increase the damage taken. So, it being an AoE status effect could potentially bite you in the ass. So yeah, I wouldn't use something like this in Grand Conquest. It will probably end very poorly. Still, not all is bad with this thing. This thing could work with cancel affinity. So for example, if you splash something like that on the enemy, you could cheat the system by carrying that to whatever benefits you, or cancel out an enemy's affinity altogether, allowing you to have a neutral matchup when you had a bad matchup before. But such things come at a cost of a B slot and a specific situation to really benefit from it. Still, it's a nice style of play and can be powerful in the right situations. Now, compared to the other staffs, I still think I'd much rather use something like Fear for defense. Sure, I mean, reducing, say, for example, 50 attack by 20% takes off 10, more than the 7 that Fear provides. But this will help Maribel too, and I mean, we all know how squishy she is. And because you don't have to play with colors, it's a little more reliable, and I think that it won't backfire horribly and get my face ripped off unless I have cancel affinity. So, personally, with offensive stats like that, I think she's more suited for Pain Plus or Gravity Plus shenanigans and just outright delete her enemies. Her staff itself might be decent on certain support healers, but I'm not gonna be foddering her off anytime soon. Anyway, so the next up we have Samia. She's absolutely beautiful. So are you sure this was drawn by that Pico Maru? Well, anyway, in my opinion, she has just recently power creep Shiguri. Sure, yeah, they share the same BST, but Samia beats him by 2 speed, which is pretty important, especially when speed is one of these all-in or not at all stats. So she's going to be pretty tough to double while easily doubling others. Now, her kit is pretty straightforward, with something like a Reprisal Lance and Close Defense. Samia is built to tank attacks and then rip them to shreds with a double attack through sheer speed. Though, Quick Repulse you can use Quick Repulse to deal with people like Mia or something like that are really fast, so that they can put Reprisal Lance to work. Now, attack and defense link is pretty handy. Tossing her salad or getting tossed yourself give both the units a sharp stat increase, which, once again, works with her kit of tanking people to death. However, that's pretty much it about her character. She's not really all that interesting. I mean, she'll have an advantage against melee, but she'll face some problems with arrows and magic. Thankfully, she does have a resistance super boon, so she could use that to help her tank magic and dragons if need be, and she could run Quick Repulse for the guaranteed double. I mean, she's fast enough to avoid getting doubled herself, so running Quick Repulse doesn't really hurt her all that much, and then she can guarantee the extra 12 damage from Reprisal Lance. Now, as for Libra, have you ever heard of a man called Hawkeye? You know, that big hunk of meat with no nipples, but instead have 30 defenses in both defense and resistance in their place? Well, that's pretty much a Libra, except he loses 5 HP for 10 more speed, thanks to power creep. Well, I guess that does make Libra pretty tanky, but to be perfectly honest, 32 is still not quite enough against the current speed meta that we're now dealing with today, unless you really work for it. Now, if he gets doubled, he's going to have a really hard time. So one of the ways we can fix this is by using Steady Breath, the Wagoon, the Wrath, or something like Moonbow, and simply just try to knock out the enemy in one hit with his powerful base 35 attack. The other way we can do this is to stack his defense's stats sky high, so high that it no longer becomes an issue. Say, I don't know, double close defense, that sort of thing. And then just counter melee units to death. In this, I feel that Hawkeye and Libra are about the same. Hawkeye has the HP for his dual defenses, while Libra has a couple more attack, I think like 2, and a greater potential to not get doubled in the first place, which can be very valuable. But, still in my eyes, he's just Wagoon fodder. Spur attack res is whatever. Finally, there's Olivia. Akira did a really good job with her art this time. I don't know why he's holding back to begin with. Maybe they just simply didn't pay him enough. But anyway, she comes with her own pref weapon, the Scald, which is basically the same thing as Akira's own pref, the Urar. Now, some of you may think that, oh, so that means that she's better than flying Azura then. Well, that's not actually the case at all. So, think about it like this, okay? Being a flying unit, the buffs you generally will end up being passed around are usually flyer buffs or tactics buffs. At this stage of the game, generally, +3 to all stats can be easily covered, even within a infantry team. So something like this is mainly used when you have no real buffs of your own, and I mean, like maybe some kind of arena assault team. Or maybe some kind of ward team, I guess, or gold ward team that specializes on invisible buffs. This is the main reason, though, I pulled for such a thing. Because if I have an additional dancer for my healers, I have more things to do, more things I can pull off in Arena Assault. I can use my healers to move once, or twice, or maybe even 3 times to sweep Arena. Now, stat-wise, flying Olivia and Azura are generally around the same. Azura is slightly faster, favors resistance, while Olivia is the other way around. Though Olivia does get a resistance super boon, so she could use that because she is actually not within the 150 arena bin. Not that it really matters, of course, because you're not using dancers for their BST, you're not using them to score very high, you're using them because you want your units to move again. And she also has another thing that's good for her, and that is that her base kit is really good. Like, it's absolutely amazing. It allows her to tank attacks much better. Bracing stance is a very useful technique, as dancers, well, they shouldn't be attacking in general. It's one of these things that makes me wish that I have Water Breath on my Ninian, or, well, I have this on Ninian as well. Though Steady Breath might still probably win out, because then Ninian can actually fight on her own. But this is still good, because, well, I mean, what options do you have as a flying unit? You can't use Steady Breath. Now, Chill Speed slows down enemies so that they can no longer double Olivia and her allies, while opening them up to get doubled instead. It is the type of skill that I would use a dancer's B slot for, aside from Wings of Mercy, something fully supportive such as this. Now, all in all, she's a great unit, and I would recommend at least getting one of her. You can never go wrong with having different dancers in Arena Assault. Now that we have analyzed all the units, though, let's get to the Feh Channel quickly and call it a day. So, after the new units and the announcement of the best conqueror Walmart himself, which I'm kind of sad about because he's just a Grand Hero unit, the Feh Channel was just not very interesting. I don't know what other people's reactions are like, especially live, but me, I was just not impressed. I mean, yeah, we get a ton of orbs from a long list of rewards and like 15 free summons, and we get old Tempest Trial units. Those are kind of nice, but, you know, there's really nothing new. And besides, I feel like Tempest Trial units needs to be on a regular rotation, something that we can do to get them more regularly, instead of just having them chill at like, oh yeah, with this they're at like +4 now, that's great. Yeah, that's not going to help anybody. So, you know, if they get rotated, maybe that'll work out. You know, that's a decent way to keep things interesting. The Grand Hero battle units are kind of stuck in the same way too. Even though we're getting these rotating every week Grand Hero battles, it's only for people to catch up. There's really not much else to it. I wish that we can keep gaining them. I mean, alright, we don't need to have to +10 them right away, but at a steady pace. I mean, you already have all your power creep and all that. Why not, you know, why not just give a little more? Anyway, so next thing is Grand Conquest, rewarding their active players, and with a leaderboard that it doesn't really matter. Like, Maybe it'll make more sense, okay, if Grand Conquest was a single round ordeal, but seeing how that it runs in 3 rounds, what is even the point of ranking people who are saving their conquest swords for the last rounds, and those that are not? I suppose it's there to just give some free rewards, but still, whatever. But anyway, Grand Conquest nowadays, the Inferno doesn't really matter much anymore since enemy units no longer attack as soon as they teleport to a new camp. So people can practically get the same points, so the so-called competition with all this is just a matter of which round you're planning on investing in. It's kinda silly, but I think you stand to gain the most if you spread yourself out rather than actually competing for the highest score in a single round. Honestly, I feel that Grand Conquest was a great idea, but in its current state, there's still a lot that needs to be done to it, because right now it's just pretty much an auto-battling game, much like Tempest Trials. Now, the weapon refinery options for the Escaratrials are kinda cool. The Voltvanga now carries Brace and Attack Dev, which you can stack with yet another Brace and Attack Dev to give him a deadly 14 attack and defense as soon as he hits 80% health. Problem is, he needs to actually hit 80% health. Now, the Triangle Adapt bonus that he gets is kinda iffy. I'm still kinda debating whether to actually use that or just have him gain some extra stats instead. See, Triangle Adapt could help Alphonse get to 80% more safely, where green mages are involved, but he's also so painfully slow that it doesn't really matter anyway. And as for his stats, well, I guess giving him attack or defense is probably the best ones to raise, hooking up with him a Swordbreaker and just have him deal with martial opponents. Now, what I'll probably end up doing is that, once we get his 80%, I'm just gonna keep pounding him into people with his base 65 attack beat stick, more if you give him an attack buff. And some attack seals maybe, and just have him go to town, attempting to one-shot people to death. By my calculation, he should be able to run up to 74 or 76 attack, with some of the most basic setups. Meanwhile, Fensailor neutralized buffs, which I guess could be kinda useful at some points, while gaining a speed dev bond, but it's really not terribly exciting, and it's kinda situational. I feel that it's the most boring of the bunch, and she's definitely gonna need a rework of her rework. Finally, Anna's Noah tune is her teleporting over her allies, which is pretty much all there is to it. Now, I think that running an aggressive life and death build with desperation, with some team buffs, is probably the best way to keep her somewhat relevant, allowing her to surprise enemies and maybe killing them. Though my honest opinion, I feel that she desperately needs another effect on top of this warping around that'll give her more damage, or at least some kind of threat to play with. So as you can probably imagine, I feel that Voltvanger is probably the best out of these 3 options. It allows Alphonse to dish out a tremendous amount of damage despite being stuck at a +0 unit. Now the others I wish would have a similar treatment, since they're also stuck at +0 for life. They need something that can even the field against the merged units, rather than just a couple tricks. Though I guess they do get boosted stats if they're used in the arena, so I guess there's something, I guess. Speaking of, well, there's that arena change. Now, I want everyone to realize that I spend money on this game and I still hate it. Now that focus units get 3 more points for killing a unit, arena has become even more pay to win. It's completely the opposite that I wish to change. Now, I want to see less armor. I want to see all sorts of different Fire Emblem characters. Not the same Zelgias, not the same Mirth, not the same Effie or whatever. Not just the ones that can turn to dragons or wear plates, and especially not some horrible setups later, maybe, where you have teams built specifically to keep an Escaratrial down, to keep them from making a kill. Like 4 reds on Anna Day, or 4 blues on Alphonse Day, or just some really, really physically tanky defenders with steady breath and Ignis. So, even if the Escar person wins the battle, they end up losing 12 points. it's pretty stupid, and it's not what I wanted at all. I mean, you have all these brilliant heroes with different game mechanics, and here we are restricting everything for the arena. Like, it's like toss out most of the cast and just restricting them to a couple. It's really dumb, especially coming from a strategy game. We need a different way to start scoring units, scoring your arena performance, rather than, oh yeah, you need to stack armor or something like that. Now, finally, we have this mode, which we literally grind for support conversations, where you clear a simple map like those that you see in a training tower or the Blessed Gardens. Yeah, something like that. That's great, yeah. I'm very excited for it, yep. But hey, at least I learned something from all this, and that is that Hinoka is a scoundrel.
Take that, you scoundrel! And that!
Oh, that's about it for our brief analysis of the units and the rather disheartening Feh Channel. The arena changes are definitely worse, and here they're touting it around like it's a good thing. I've been upset by this since I found out they took free units like Sophia or Virion and the others from the arena rotations and instead replaced them with non-plus tenable Grand Hero Battle units. I mean, look, there's absolutely nothing interesting about having to keep summoning constantly just to keep up. Fire Emblem is about having a favorite character, and I don't know, I mean, just summoning ults for the same favorite character over and over and over again gets old and tiring, and you're basically just cutting off the rest of the cast. But I guess I went over that already. So, well, that's all the time there is for my little rant. I thank you all for watching. Until next time.